Solomon says here when he talks concerning wisdom, is that the wise person realizes that God gave you that day. He had something to do with what went on that day. And in my effort to have more integrity, to have the wisdom that leads to integrity, I've learned in my prayers. I don't know when you pray. You may be a morning person and you do all your praying in the morning. I'm one of those guys that lays there in bed and does my praying at night as I consider the day. And I think of things that I said that I probably shouldn't have said, or that I didn't use as much tact as I should have, or I go over my day. But I'm learning as part of that whole process to say, God, in some days I just don't understand. God, why in the world did you give to let today happen? Why did I have a day like today? Even if he didn't cause it, he permitted it. And I'm gaining some real insight into some things simply by saying, God, what do you want me to take away from today that's positive? What do you want me to learn from today? You know, maybe my wife and I, we had kind of one of those ouchy days with one another. What do you want me to learn about being a better husband? What do you want me to take from today? You know, today I had some real conflict at work. What do you want me to learn about my interpersonal relationships to prevent that from happening? You know, if I was wrong, you know, convict me the way I was wrong. Perhaps today was a day that things didn't go well as a parent. And you know, just real conflict and whatever, and you don't feel real good about the way you handled it as a parent. We need to say, God, I trust you, but what do you want me to learn from this day that I've had with my children? God, you know, I didn't feel quite, didn't get all that I think I should have gotten from worship today. God, what do you want to teach me from that? Are there ways that I need to change, that I might gain more from worship? God, you know I wasn't very polite. God, you know I wasn't very patient. You know, my driving today wasn't up to the standard of a Christian. I honked the horn, and I was too impatient, and I was driving too fast. And God, what am I supposed to learn from that? If you're in charge, and that was point number 3, if you're in charge, then what did you want me to learn today? As a person who comes by a temper honestly, I need to learn that. I need to ask that question, and perhaps you need to as well. Solomon, I think, when he asked for wisdom, God gave it to him, but I think God caught it to him through the things that happened to him. And I think that's what God will do for us. If we want wisdom, we need to pray for it. The Bible tells us that in various scriptures. But don't expect it to just suddenly be dumped into your head between your ears. You know where he's going to give you the wisdom. He's going to give you the wisdom by giving you some bad days. He's going to give you wisdom by giving you some days like we've been living through in our country. He's going to teach us to be wise people, but he's not always going to do it by giving us all good days. I have a problem with the theology that I see so often on TV and on the radio and whatever, where they say, be a Christian and everything good is going to happen to you. God can't give us the wisdom we need if he gives us all good stuff. Now, there are many, many days, and I think all of us would have to admit, when God gives us a better day than we deserve, when gives us blessings, more blessings than we deserve. But there are days when God permits those bad days. Why? Because he wants us to learn to trust him in all situations, even when things aren't going our way. We'll talk about some of the rest of what Solomon has to say about this passage next week and relate it specifically to fathers. But we need that wisdom. If you're more than 40 years old, it's time that you and I grow as much spiritually, mature as much spiritually as we do and have physically. Donnie this morning, Millie and I were picking on him because several times Donnie was talking about feeling old or getting old or whatever. We all are. I look in the mirror and I wonder where all this gray hair came from. But I'll tell you folks, sometimes I think, certainly in my case, and I'll only speak for myself, I question whether the spiritual maturity and wisdom has matured to the same level as I have. We're getting older, we need to act more mature. We need to be wiser in the way we deal with people. We need to be wiser as husbands and wives. We need to be wiser parents. We need to be more wise in the way we endeavor to share the testimony of the Lord with other people. Concerning wisdom, forget the old days, the good old days. We just need to get that out of our vocabulary. Waste too much time thinking about that. Realize that the true wealth that we possess is the internal. The knowledge and the wisdom to use that knowledge that we have. Realize that God is in charge and you're not. God owns your house, you're not. I bought a new car, first new car I ever owned when I was up in New England, and within 1 week, God had me haul 3 people to church that smoked all the way there and back. And I hated it. I mean, I loved that new car smell, and those people were killing it. But I learned something from that experience, that God owned the car and I didn't. I hadn't called anybody that smoked in my car for years. I buy a new car and I like the way it smells, and God immediately has me calling people that were doing their best to make sure it didn't last very long. See, God taught me something in that. It irritated me, but I didn't say anything. I think wisely, because those people ended up growing and eventually became members of the church. But that's what I'm saying, to realize that God is in charge and to trust Him in all situations. Those of us that don't know particularly how secure our jobs are, I think are having a tremendous opportunity to grow in our faith, to trust Him. I don't know why you permit this layoff, don't know why I've lost my job, don't know why, don't understand why you permit this, but God, teach me what you want me to learn from this situation. That's wisdom. That's what I'm seeking. That's what I'm trying to develop in my own life. And I kind of suspect that we could all use a little more of it. Because I don't think I'm all that unique when I struggle with these teachings of the Word of God. I want to be a person of integrity, but first of all, I need to get a lot wiser. I'm working at it. I challenge you to join me in that search, as Solomon said, for wisdom. And those are 4 ways that I think we can begin to work on it. We'll talk about 4 or 5 other ways next week as we conclude our sermon. Our hymn of invitation